SAIL Disability Network Upper Peninsula logo. Picture of UP in orange with blue paint circle. SAIL Accessibility Consultation Services Access for All logo. Green and blue words titled Access with exclamation point at end and for all underneath. A SAIL conversation with the League of Women Voters Marquette. 4 persons on screen in separate boxes. Sarah Pirikoski in office wearing gray shirt with black spots. Lucy Wilcox in office wearing light blue shirt and glasses. Barb Coleman in home wearing blue LWV shirt. Joe Foley in home wearing blue and gray marbled shirt.
I just want to say welcome and thank you to Barb and Joe for joining us today on our Voting Accessibility 30th Anniversary ADA event. My name is Sarah Pirikoski. I'm the Executive Director of SAIL, the Disability Network of the Upper Peninsula. And I will have Lucy introduce herself and we will then go through a little background on who Joe and Barb is.
And I'm Lucy Wilcox, and I work with SAIL as the Accessibility Services Coordinator. And as during my time here, I've become a certified ADA coordinator, work with a team where we can go out and do some accessibility reviews. And I love parties, so I'm really happy to be part of this one.
Thank you. So I'm going to introduce Joe first. Joe Foley is a retired physician assistant who has lived in the Upper Peninsula since 1979. She is on the Education Committee of the League of Women Voters, Marquette, and has been a volunteer in the League's voter services. So welcome to our panel, Joe.
Thanks, Sarah.
And we also have Barb Coleman. Barb is a BS in Health and Physical Education. She has an MS in Exercise Science and is an American College of Sports Medicine certified clinical exercise physiologist. She is also a certified level 3 exercise in medicine credentialed professional and may work with patients who require clinical support and monitoring. She is a retired professor from NMU's School of Health and Human Performance, and she is also a member of the AHA CPR First Aid Training Center faculty. Thanks for joining us, Barb.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to pass this over to Lucy and we can kind of get some questions to talk about voting and voter accessibility.
And we thought about voter accessibility and we thought, well, who better to ask to come and help us discuss this topic, but a couple of people from the League of Women Voters, known for being nonpartisan and known for the task of helping provide impartial information to people. So I think we'd like to just start with Joe and Barb telling us a little bit about the League of Women Voters, but also about your own involvement and maybe a little motivation about why you're there.
Okay, I think I was designated to do this to start. Basically, the League of Women Voters was created under various names throughout its history, but about 6 months before the 19th Amendment was actually passed to give women the right to vote. That was in 1920. And we really did, we're having a big celebration basically of that anniversary as well. And last year did a really major presentation on how it came to be that women finally got the right to vote. So the League of Women Voters has been devoted to, and I'll give you the statement right off our website, it's a nonpartisan political organization, encourages informed and active participation in government, works to increase understanding of major policy issues, and influences public policy through education and advocacy. But I think one of the most important words, and you've already mentioned it, it is nonpartisan. It is absolutely nonpartisan. I became aware of it as I was retiring from Northern a couple of years ago as a professor, and I was looking for something that really reached a lot of people, and perhaps people who hadn't been as paid attention to before. And when I became aware that the League of Women Voters was nonpartisan and did so much education and public good without having to focus on a party or, you know, really about partisanship, I got kind of excited about it, and it's been a great place to be. And it is not just for women. That's very important. It's one of those names like the YMCA that's not just for a certain group of people. It is for everyone.
Good to know. Mm-hmm.
And I got involved, I think, a little after Barb. I think you were part of the group before I started. But I, again, was looking for a way to do something in the civic realm that didn't involve, you know, stomping around talking about a particular candidate or knocking on doors and that sort of thing. And as I got to be a member of the Marquette League and got involved, one of the things we were involved around were the propositions that were on the ballot in 2018. And a lot of those had to do with voting rights. So I got involved with discussing those, and in doing that, found out just how difficult it is for some people to vote and how many obstacles that I wasn't even aware of were in the way of people. So looking at the ADA was another new piece for me, but it seemed a real just growth out of what I was learning about obstacles to people in general.
I really appreciate your sharing, you know, wanting to get involved, and then a lot of learning happens. And that one of the disability leaders downstate, a fellow named Dave Volkowski, who is the CEO of the Kent Center for Independent Living, he and I were talking at length about a lot of things that I didn't know and I was just learning. And he just said, well, you know, Lucy, you just don't know what you don't know till you know it. And so just be kind about that you're just learning. So I really appreciated his starting with me with that. And would you just tell us about some of the programs that the League offers to the general voting public?
You want me to? Okay. So many. There are so many opportunities to get involved. Some of the committees within the League are voter service, voter registration education, the Observer Corps, where people actually go in and observe public meetings of various community entities, advocacy for various issues, membership, nominating, communication, and then one of the things that we've done is a candidate forum. And as my understanding, we've done 2 or 3 of them in the past. Extremely well received by the community. Extremely, it got way crowded. The last one we did last year, it was awesome, and we are planning on doing one this year virtually. So it's a little different, but we'll do it, and we'll do it well. And then within the meetings themselves, we've had educational programs. Jo has done a couple of them, and she could tell you about those, I betcha.
Well, we try to educate our members, and there are positions that the state and national league take after great study. So some of our programs will just educate our own members about those positions to know what we might want to work on advocacy in the future. We've also done programs on climate change. We had a speaker in for that. And that fits one of our proposals or one of our positions. So lots of things like that. But the big one we did last year was 3 town halls in town and west of Marquette about the propositions. There's the town hall. So we were we had people from the state Secretary of State's office up, and we talked about redistricting and about, that's the one I did, so I know the most about that one. What else did we do? About, voters' rights, the new voters' rights, and so the census, because those were things coming up. So we had you know, 3 nights basically of town halls along those lines. So, and then we do, you know, we're planning for other kinds of education messages. We were hoping earlier, but because of COVID, this was put off, but we plan to do a program on Native Americans and voting rights and their concerns with that as a group. So this fits right in, right? Just one more thing to learn about and to expand our knowledge, and then hopefully our help, because that's what we'd like it to become.
So can I ask a quick question? So where would people go to find those resources? Obviously your website, and what other ways, or, you know, is it free? Can they just sign up? Are there things they have to be involved in to participate in that, or is that open to the public as well?
Like the town halls?
Yeah, or the programs in general as well. Like I know you said you had a presentation,
Sure.
but just like some of that education piece, do they
Right.
have to be members, or can public outside of the town hall attend those?
Our membership meetings are open to anybody. And of course, when we could have, you know, in-person meetings, we were getting packed and more packed. Now we're doing virtual meetings. That's a little more difficult to bring in folks that don't already know about us. But there's, we have a website, which I just, League of Women Voters Marquette. I think that's how you find, or at least we have a Facebook, right, Barb?
We have both.
This. We have both. Okay.
Website and a Facebook page.
And we'll make sure to have all of those resources up on our page as well on our website, so that people can access those if they are watching this video as well.
We keep changing. We keep changing our name because we went from being a supervised new group to now becoming, you know, an independent group, and our name changes each time. So I forget what we're called sometimes. The other cool program we do is on National Voters Day, we've gone into the high schools and talked about voting to the seniors, and then registered anyone who was old enough. And that's been really exciting, just to see the young folks get excited and know the issues and be wanting to vote. That's been very cool.
Yeah, one of the important things I think Lucy and I talked about is why we wanted to make sure this was part of our birthday gifts that we put out for the ADA 30th anniversary, is because of such a big voting year. And it is a voting year, and we want to make sure that people are remembering to register to vote and to vote this year. So we want to make sure it was part of our program, and then talk a little bit more about that accessibility, because some people that live with a disability might not know, or know how to, you know, understand their rights to vote and how to do it on site or virtually now. So,
right.
It was great help in the requirements were passed that anyone could get an absentee ballot. If you're a registered voter, you can get an absentee ballot. And that was not just a great thing for the college kids, but that was wonderful in terms of people with disabilities. And not, you know, I mean, anyone can get one. It gives you time to sit with the ballot. If you need assistance filling it out, but you can take your time, and you're not in a group where you feel hurried. And it's a really wonderful way that we advocate for people of all sorts to be able to take their time and make decisions at their own pace.
And Barb, do you know when that went into effect? And that, so here in Michigan, we're talking about Michigan, correct? Because this is determined state by state.
Yeah.
And so certainly I feel that we're fortunate that everyone can get an absentee ballot. But do you know when that occurred?
I don't know the exact date. I know we were giving that information last year. It had to be at least before the beginning of last year. Because when we went out into the high schools, we were talking about it.
Right. Well, it was the 2018 election
There we go.
that passed the proposition, and I think it started that next January, I believe.
Sure.
Okay.
And the other really nice thing, and that I would imagine would also help people with certain disabilities, is that so much of this can be done online now, at home or wherever you can get online. You can register online, so you don't have to even drive to the Secretary of State's office. You can automatically do it there, but you can do it online, and that's available through lots of sites. I mean, it all goes back to the Secretary of State site, but the League's Vote 411 site has links to registering online, applying for an absentee ballot. That can be done online. So I think that's a help. One of the things I did find out, though, and I don't know as much as I'd like about it, is that some websites, even official ones, are not necessarily accessible to some people who have special devices on their computers to read, screen readers, I think it was called. And also candidates' websites, I found, often sometimes have those helps. So I don't really know that much about screen readers, but that would be an issue to push with any candidate, I would think, to make their websites available.
Yeah, website accessibility is definitely a high concern these days. Obviously, with people doing more virtual things, they're pretty easy to figure out how accessible websites are, but in the sense like checking a lot of Google stuff and the just online can do that, but not a lot of people know how to do that. So that is really a barrier to people that need the screen readers. But so what other, what is something else that somebody should know if they want to or are unable to get to that Secretary of State office? Do you think if they, about voting, if they live with a disability, like, is there anything else that they might want to understand when they want to go vote, or maybe they haven't voted in the past? Like, what would be their first steps, I guess?
Barb, do you have some thoughts? Or?
Being educated, really, and I think that comes from a lot of sources. That, well, Vote 411, and it's vote411.org. You can find out if you're registered. You can find out if you're check your polling place, if you're going to be going there. You can check what's on the ballot. And there's also information about candidates. They'll ask, each candidate has been asked a question and they have an opportunity to reply to that. So there's a lot of, basically we're talking about encouraging an informed electorate. And that means everybody. And that means seeing what the candidates stand for. What do you want to know, basically? And that can start months before the actual election. And then making sure you're registered. If you need assistance finding, I would say they would probably contact your office if they need assistance, whether it's getting registered, getting a ballot, or an absentee ballot, and then helping fill it out. I have a couple of friends who are totally visually impaired who that I help them, with their ballot, and they just you just can't have someone who's your employer or an agent of your employer or a union representative. But there are many people, as in your office, and friends and family that can help you with those things. And I think it's much less intimidating if you know in advance, what's on the ballot and what are the candidates about, and how you get that ballot, and then filling it out. It isn't as onerous as it might seem, really.
So we can promote vote411.org as all-stop shopping.
Yep.
Pretty much.
Pretty much. So, and a good place to start, because you're probably going to find everything you need. And if you don't, you can call SAIL and we'll help you find the specifics about a concern with a particular disability that may require more assistance, and just even getting to the nuts and bolts of transportation how are people going to get out on that day? I remember years ago, many years ago, in Texas, that one of the big tasks that the parties would take upon themselves would be to have call lists of individuals who needed assistance to get to the polls. And I don't know if they do that here in Michigan.
I don't know if the candidates do anymore myself, or if the parties possibly.
Calls. Don't know that one.
Okay.
Another good source I found, though, too, that people might want to know about, that's a little bit different angle on it than the Vote 411, is that the ACLU put out a voters' rights guide, and it's available at michiganvoting.org. And it wasn't just ACLU, they worked with the various protective and advocacy services, and it had a lot of detail, but it was very clearly written, I thought, and talked about not only your rights. For example, you can ahead of time, you can request curbside voting, you can do oral voting, you can have be accompanied by up to 2 people. You can go look at your polling place ahead of time and make sure it's accessible. There were just a lot of good information in that guide, I found, for me anyway, that I hadn't known about. And it opened my eyes to some of the other obstacles.
So Joe, I know that you sent us a video, and I'd like to show that video. Can you explain a little bit just what the videos are showing?
Right. This was another new thing to me, but it turns out that every precinct is required to have something called a voter access terminal. It's been called other things in the past, but that's essentially what it is. And it's it looks like sort of like a computer screen. It's a touch screen. So, and it has to be in a wheelchair accessible place with privacy. So it can be used by anybody. Anyone can request it. Perhaps you'd rather do a touch screen than a paper ballot. You can do that. But attached to it are devices. One is a controller that has Braille on it indicating the controlling device. And you can use that and earphones to have it come out audibly rather than visually, and scroll up and down and through the pages and vote. There's also an attachment for puff and sip, which I have to say I wasn't that familiar with, but I realized now that it's a controller, right, for someone who can't use their hands, and so that can be hooked up. So it allows people with a wide range of disabilities to vote independently in their polling place. So that's what the videos are. Was it Joanna, one of our members, took the place of someone and went through this, and we saw how they opened it up. And basically the screen is activated by one of the polling workers. They then, they're around to help if necessary, but they're not in the visual space. And there's, once you've voted, rather than it being just an electronic vote, which I know people are concerned about, it prints out a piece of paper that has a QR code on it that's going to be read, and then it, in English and words, it says what the election was, who you voted for, so that you or someone with you who can read can go over it and make sure that that's what you voted for. That then gets put in a privacy envelope, just like the ballot does, and gets put over with the rest of the ballots, and it gets read. So I was like, wow, this is, this is pretty cool. But interestingly, one of the problems, and not necessarily in Marquette, because they seem to be running, but this is a machine that's changed. It's a machine that takes some training of the staff. I heard stories when I talked to downstate people of them finding it still in its box used as a doorstop, or out but not plugged in, or up but not accessible, or people with good intentions hovering over the shoulder of someone using it, you know, to help them. So there's a learning curve on it for the polling places, I think, and I know they're working on it. There was one city downstate, I think it was East Lansing, that they did a training where the clerk made it a competition for the next election, how many VAT votes they could get. So it would encourage, and the prize, I guess, was a dinner or something, you know, or poor boys or something. But so instead of being afraid of it, they were all, the staff were trained on it, and they would be encouraging people to use it. So they got used to it, and they got some sort of record number of VAT votes.
And
So
those are supposed to be at each polling place?
no, each precinct.
Each precinct, okay.
Yeah. So I think in precincts where there might be more than one place, they might share one. I think it depends on the size. I know in Marquette, they have, is this right, Barb? That they have one for those polling places that are all in the basement of the city hall.
Yeah,
There's 4 precincts there.
trying to get more than one, but they haven't really needed it up to now.
It's more than one precinct, but it's in the same space, so they can.
Yeah. So that was good.
And they also go through great security stuff about programming the computer, and it's sealed and it's witnessed. You can go as a citizen and witness the whole, you know, protection procedure, privacy. Yeah, amazing.
The city representative, you know, walked us through the whole procedure, and I think Marquette's going to be very well prepared for people to use that. And also at the polling places, you know, that need to know what to do, like Joe was finding on talking with people downstate, but maybe not. But the Justice Department actually has on their website the ADA checklist for polling places, which, you know, goes through everything step by step and has a very detailed checklist of what's supposed to be in place. And even having temporary remedies where temporary remedies are going to be necessary for, you know, the voting day. So there's really no excuse for people not to have accessibility at polling places.
That's on the DOJ?
Yes, the Department of, well, it'd probably be an ADA because ADA, it's an ADA checklist. And it's
Okay.
ADA
Okay.
checklist for polling places. Yeah.
I found that on the Secretary of State site as well. It refers to that. So
I think it's the Secretary of State's site that also has a video of the VAT, the voting machine.
okay.
Yeah, it's but yours walked it through a little. I like it.
Yeah. Oh, that reminds me too. Speaking of videos, there is an amazing series of videos that I found out from the Michigan Protective and Advocacy Services. You guys probably have heard of them, but there's a series of five-minute videos that are accessible, and that's there. I've given you the site for that if you want to put it up for people. It's block by block.
I did the blockbyblockcreative.com. That's wonderful.
This was great. You're for someone who doesn't have at least an office disability, to watch people and listen to people who have had problems voting, talk about them, look at the remedies, was very eye-opening. They're very well done. They're on 5 different topics. The third one actually has Chris Wolf, I think it is, from downstate Michigan in it, talking about the VAT. I was just very impressed with them. I think, and I would recommend anybody, not even those with disabilities, to look at them, just to expand their own knowledge of what people go through, and really what are the rights. We all want to vote independently and privately. and that is our right. And from just ignorance or lack of money or lack of people to not provide that is a sad thing.
Totally agree. One thing I ran across in my research was that if people with disabilities voted at the same rate as people as non-disabled, or as I hear Lucy say many times, temporarily able people, there'd be 2 million more votes cast in this country. So
that's a huge, huge.
Yeah, what a statistic. That's a great point. Thanks for sharing that.
Okay.
And can I ask, you also provided us with a resource for a hotline for voting access problems the day of the election, and it's an 800 number. Do you know who sponsors that?
I got it through Michigan Protective and Advocacy Services.
Okay.
I don't think they specifically do it, but it's somehow associated. I'm sorry not to be more specific on that one.
Oh, no, please. I'm just fishing because you've already caught some.
Yeah. It's a real thing. And she said,
you maybe can help people feel that they can approach more easily. So I will call and find out.
And what they said was that, you call it, if there's a problem, you call it and they'll try to help you with that problem. But it also is a place to start the process to fix it for the next time. So, and I was thinking too, and this was a suggestion amongst the various things I read, was to check in with your clerk ahead of voting. Find your precinct, go take a look at it. See if it seems accessible, address the problems ahead of time. I mean, that puts a lot of load on the person who wants to vote, but it is one way to bring these things up, not in the moment, maybe, where everyone's working to get the vote out and it's a little hard sometimes to address the problem. Maybe ahead of time would be nice. I'm really hoping as we work together that the League can become a partner with you guys as far as working on accessibility in the county. I was fascinated with this checklist, and just the nuts and bolts of figuring out how to make a place accessible, how much space you need in the, signage and for people using it with impaired vision, using a cane. I would never have thought about things sticking out from the wall, right? Or hanging down from the ceiling. Those are things you have to look for.
And Joe, you're speaking to what sales experiences and what my personal experience is, which is by and large, people want to do the right thing. And that what we really do need is more of the shared education and, your opportunities of going into the high school. I believe SAIL really has a role to play in education and accessibility in high schools, and that there are a part of the motivation that we have with, besides loving parties, is that we really want to create stronger networks of advocacy. So your willingness to take this assignment on and go for it and give us so many important websites where people can get information and different kinds. And personally, I really treasure, I had not found blockbyblockcreative.com, but I did find an amazing advocacy group in California with an interesting name, Sins Invalid. And they've done a disability justice primer that we'll have on our website. And they have some films that are very powerful that we hope to show and continue this education process as soon as we can all be in the community room, like at the library.
Yes, that'd be nice.
Yeah, so it's just wonderful to have you both here. And
Another resource I can give you, the U.S. Election Assistance Commission has a document on their website, 10 tips for voters with disabilities. And it basically it's saying all the things we've just been talking about, learning more about voting, registering to a vote, choosing the right method to vote for you, and communicating your needs in advance, checking the location and accessibility of your voting place, knowing your rights, following up with the elections office after you vote, know who can help you if voting is not accessible, staying informed and getting more information. So I'll dig up the link to that and get that to you too as well.
oh, thank you. Okay, because I didn't get the full name.
Just to put in another plug for the League of Women Voters, is just I've been one of the things that I found really, besides everything they do, is their positions, and they're very carefully arrived at. It takes forever to get a position. It is okay by the League of Women Voters. They are very picky. But one of their national positions is the citizens' right to vote. That to protect the right of all citizens to vote and encourage all citizens to vote. So that broad, position statement then is broken down into all of their efforts over the years. But everyone should have the right to vote. So
basically.
Good. We'll look that up and get that at the top of the page for this day. That.
Do I have time for another point? I'm not keeping track.
Yeah, of course.
This to me took this even beyond the disabled community. And I can't remember exactly, I think it might have been in the videos, but the idea that there are moves for voter suppression of various kinds all over the country. I have been for a long time. And what this statement was that the disabled community are disproportionately members of the groups that get targeted for suppression. And that was like a burst in my head, that, well, of course, it's like being more vulnerable to COVID. It's being, all other things that disadvantage people. And it sort of took it to a higher level to me, that not only do we need everyone to vote, but we need people to be voting who have these problems in order to fight this kind of suppression. And to me, it's almost like, getting the black vote out, when they were first enfranchised, getting women to vote. That changes more than just that community. It improves the whole community, I think. So, that just really, really struck me as a bombshell.
What a good note to end on.
A fantastic note. Thank you.
That's
Mic drop. Yes.
And she was a great PA too.
Yeah, you can tell. Very, very informed. Thank you so much, Barb and Joe, for your time today, and thank you, Lucy, for organizing this. I so appreciate your words and your wisdom, and we hope we'll get more people to vote. So thanks, and have a great afternoon.
SAIL Disability Network Upper Peninsula logo, picture of UP in orange with blue paint circle. SAIL Accessibility Consultation Services Access for All logo. Green and blue words titled Access with exclamation point at end, for all underneath. www.upsail.org/accessibility/.